Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to welcome you to the first edition of the GCSP Transformative Futures Day in Prize ceremony, an event dedicated to exploring how we can generate new expertise and approaches for a safer and more secure future. I would like to thank Professor Nayef Al-Rodhan, head of the GCSP's Geopolitics and Global Futures program, as well as Ms. Anne-Caroline Pissis-Martel, head of the GCSP's Global Fellowship Initiative in Creative Spark, for co-creating this prize, and their teams for organizing this event. Transformative Futures Day is an opportunity for us to delve into the pressing issues facing the world today, focusing on how we can rethink and transform our current systems and approaches to conflict prevention, management, and resolution. As you all know, Geneva is a global center for advancing peace and security in today's turbulent world, and the GCSP carries this message loud and clear through diplomatic dialogue, executive education, publications, events, fellowships, and project incubations that enable us to exchange ideas and develop sustainable solutions for a more peaceful future. I want to express my gratitude to all of the GCSP staff members, fellows, and community of experts for their dedication to our mission of advancing peace, security, and cooperation. During the first part of today's event, we will be discussing cybersecurity and its transformative implications for peace and security, a topic that has become increasingly relevant in our modern world. While digital connectivity offers many opportunities, it is important to recognize and address the potential threats that come with it to ensure a safe and equitable digital future. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Leonard Maschmeyer, senior researcher at the Center for Security Studies in Zurich, will enlighten us on this crucial topic. In the second part of this event, we will award the GCSP Prize for Transformative Futures in Peace and Security for the first time, recognizing the talent and inspiration of thought leaders who dare to challenge the status quo and develop groundbreaking concepts to address global peace and security challenges. I invite you to stay until the end of this event to celebrate the winners' achievements and learn more about what sparks their passion for building peace in a transformative manner. We live in a world that is fraught with conflict and division, but I want to remind us all today that peace is not an impossible dream. Let us all commit ourselves to the cause of peace building and security, not just for ourselves, but for the generations that will come after us. With dedication and perseverance, we can create a world where every person can live with security, dignity, and harmony. We are thrilled to have you all here with us today and look forward to an engaging and informative event. Thank you for joining us.
Now to the main event of our Transformative Security Day, which is the announcement of the top 3 winners of the GCSP Prize for Transformative Futures in Peace and Security. Just as a background quickly, we launched this prize under the direction and support of our Director Ambassador Thomas Greminger, and in collaboration with Anne-Caroline, who's the head of our GCSP Creative Spark Initiative. The prize will complement our existing 7-year-old other prize in Innovations in Global Security, held in November of every year. The prize was created to honor projects in transformative peace and security, where the winning project will be incubated and nurtured here at GCSP within the Creative Spark Initiative. I'm very grateful to our distinguished jury, some of whom are with us today, for their hard work and insightful engagement in picking the 3 winners after reviewing many worthy applicants. In this inaugural edition, we received 171 applicants from all over the world. Our jury, who deserve a great gratitude from all of us, are Mr. Alexander Barclay, Delegate for Digital Policy from the State of Geneva. Welcome on board, Alexander. Mr. Giles Carbonnier, who's the Vice President of the ICRC, Ms. Sophie Dubois, President, General Tourism and Conventions Foundation in Geneva, Professor Andreas Wenger, who's the Professor of International and Swiss Security at ETH Zurich, our Director, Ambassador Thomas Greminger, and Caroline Martel, and myself. Very grateful to all of you for your very hard work and impressive insights. Now back to you, Paul.
Thank you, Professor Al-Rodhan, and I'll now pass over to Ms. Anne-Caroline Pissis-Martel, who's the head of the Global Fellowship Initiative and Creative Spark.
Thank you, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, esteemed recipients, it is with great pleasure and anticipation that we gather here today to celebrate the power of transformative futures. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ambassador Thomas Greminger and Professor Nayef Al-Rodhan for co-creating this prize with me. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to our esteemed jury members for dedicating the valuable time and applying their expertise and experience to evaluate the various projects submitted. And last, I would like to thank our respective teams for their hard work, without which we would not be having this ceremony today. Today marks a special occasion as we honor and recognize individuals and institutions who have displayed remarkable vision, creativity, and dedication to shaping a better tomorrow. This event serves as a testament to our firm commitment to fostering innovation and progress. At the heart of our gathering is the highly sought-after prize, the 2-month incubation program in the GCSP's Creative Spark in Geneva, worth 15,000 Swiss francs. This is a unique opportunity for exceptional individuals to refine their ideas, collaborate with diverse experts, and unlock their full potential. This program embodies the essence of nurturing transformative futures by providing a fertile environment for innovative ideas to flourish. In a world where change is the only constant, it is crucial that we encourage and empower those who dare to challenge the status quo. The future belongs to those who envision possibilities beyond the realm of the ordinary, who refuse to accept limitations and instead forge their own path. The recipients of this prestigious prize have demonstrated precisely these qualities. At the GCSP, we are convinced that the journey towards a better future is not one embarked upon alone. It is a collective endeavor that requires collaboration, shared knowledge, and a genuine belief in the power of human potential. The incubation program at the GCSP serves exactly this purpose. It is a meeting ground where the brightest minds from diverse fields to converge, exchange ideas, and collaborate on projects that have the potential to reshape our world at large. Throughout this program, our recipients will have access to a wealth of resources, mentorship from diverse experts, and the chance to engage with a vibrant network of innovators, entrepreneurs, change makers, as well as all the actors of international Geneva. This nurturing environment will help refine their ideas, test their assumptions, and equip them with the necessary skills and tools to transform their visions into tangible realities. In Geneva, a city renowned for its international cooperation, diplomacy, and innovation, our recipients will find themselves at the heart of a global hub where new ideas are celebrated and nurtured. They will be exposed to a rich diversity of perspectives, cultures, and experiences, providing fertile ground for the cross-pollination of ideas and the birth of groundbreaking solutions. As we honor the recipients today, let us remember the responsibility that accompanies this prestigious prize. Transformative futures require compassion, empathy, and a commitment to addressing pressing challenges. We entrust our recipients to use their knowledge and experiences to make a positive impact, contributing to a more secure and peaceful world. To the recipients, I congratulate you on your success. You are about to embark upon a transformative journey that holds immense promise, not only for your personal growth, but with the potential for societal impact. So I appeal to you to embrace this opportunity to be courageous in your endeavors and to continue pushing the boundaries of what is possible. May this incubation program in Geneva serve as a launching pad for your ideas, propelling them towards a future that is brimming with potential and meaningful change. Let us celebrate the power of transformative futures and the extraordinary individuals who dare to shape them. Thank you and congratulations once again to the recipients of this prestigious prize.
Thank you, Anne-Caroline. And so now we're moving to the moment that you've all been waiting for, which is the announcement of the 2023 Transformative Futures Prize winners. And we will proceed accordingly with the third, second, and first place. It's my honor to announce the team and project who have won third place and a GCSP certificate of recognition for their project. And the winner is the Space Sustainability Rating, Encouraging a More Responsible and Sustainable Use of Space, a project submitted by the Space Sustainability Rating Association in Lausanne, Switzerland. It's represented today by Mr. Florian Micco and Mr. Adrien Saada. Congratulations to you, and we shall now hear from Mr. Adrien Saada. Over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon. So on behalf of the Space Sustainability Rating team, I am humbled to accept this recognition from the GCSP and delighted to share more about the transformative future we imagine through our work. So first and foremost, I'd like to express our deepest appreciation to the distinguished jury of this competition and its host, the GCSP, a leading and unique organization for global peace and security. Please allow me to extend our heartfelt thanks to the organizations that have been our pillars of support since the inception of the Space Sustainability Rating. RISE-TEC, the European Space Agency, ESA, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, the University of Texas at Austin, and the World Economic Forum, the WEF, have been instrumental in our journey. Their unwavering belief in our mission and their collaborative efforts have propelled us forward. Our project represents a paradigm shift in the way we approach space exploration and the utilization of its resources. It constitutes an innovative and unique system designed to encourage a more responsible, sustainable, and safer use of space. By assessing the sustainability level of space missions, we aim to foster greater awareness, security, and accountability in this frontier of human endeavor. We agree with leading experts from the GCSP when they argue that space sustainability is of paramount importance. Space activities are increasing exponentially, as well as our dependence to space-based infrastructure for critical activities. This also increases the potential for congestion, collisions, and space debris accumulation. The fragile ecosystem of space upon which our global communication, navigation, and scientific exploration rely is at risk, threatening global peace and security. By promoting sustainable space practices, we can mitigate these risks and ensure the long-term viability and accessibility of space resources for all and for generations to come. Today's prize fills us with renewed determination and inspires us to push further, work harder, and collaborate more extensively. We intend to leverage this recognition to engage with international partners, governments, and the private sector to drive broader adoption of the Space Sustainability Rating. Together, we can create a future where responsible, safe, and sustainable practices are the norm, safeguarding the delicate balance of the space environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well done. And I now hand over to Anne-Caroline to announce our second place winners.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to announce that the project that won the second place in the 2023 Prize for Transformative Futures in Peace and Security is the VOI methodology, represented by Dr. João Costa.
So unfortunately, a prior engagement kept Dr. João Costa, who's representing VOI methodology, from being here live with us. I'll remind you, the VOI methodology is actually a peace-building methodology inspired by John Rawls' veil of ignorance concept. And fortunately, we'll be able to hear more about it from him in the recorded interview. And so now here's Dr. João Costa's acceptance speech, which we also pre-recorded. So João Costa, representative for the VOI methodology, over to you.
So thank you very much, Anne-Caroline. It is an honor to be recognized amongst so many groundbreaking ideas. And apologies, obviously, for a pre-recorded speech, but this is the only possible way for me to participate here today. So I want to start by acknowledging all participants' efforts. It is exciting to see how many like-minded individuals are striving to make a meaningful impact in peace and security. And of course, a special word of recognition goes out to my fellow podium members, in particular the first place. I look forward to accompanying the progress of your ideas moving forward. Then I'd like to extend my gratitude, of course, to all of those involved in the creation of the prize, which more than a competition, I guess, represents a collective pursuit of positive change. So within GCSP, I'd like to thank the Ambassador Thomas Greminger, Professor Nayef, Al-Rodhan, Miss Christine Garnier-Simon, Miss Anne-Caroline Pissis-Martel, who I had, of course, initially thanked, as well as all the others who've been involved in one way or another throughout this process. Of course, the non-GCSP distinguished members of the jury, which I have as Mr. Alexander Barclay, Mr. Gilles Carbonnier, Miss Sophie Dubuis, and Professor Andreas Wagner. Having you in the panel makes the recognition feel even more rewarding, of course. And I hope I did not miss anyone nor pronounce the names incorrectly, so apologies for that if that was the case. To wrap up, just a final word, of course, to those who helped me with the VOI methodology in itself and to make it a tremendous success on the ground, from my friends and colleagues at the University of Cambridge to the UNDP Guinea-Bissau, Search for Common Ground Burkina Faso, and friends and other colleagues who helped me in one way or another throughout the process. I'm sure I could speak for everybody that we do hope that we contributed even slightly to make a difference in communities with whom we've worked. So thank you very much indeed.
Congratulations again. And now I will hand over to Professor Nayef Al-Rodhan, who will have the honor of announcing the first place winners of the 2023 GCSP Transformative Futures Prize.
Thank you, Paul. It's my privilege to announce the top winner for the 2023 GCSP Prize for Transformative Futures in Peace and Security. And the winners are Global Governance Innovation Project, Peace, Security, and Humanitarian Action from the Stimson Center in Washington, D.C. Dr. Ponzio, Ms. Nudhara, Ms. Siddiqui, and Professor Larik. Many congratulations to all of you. And now we will hear from the representative of the group.
Thank you, Professor Al-Rodhan, Paul, and Caroline. I'm Richard Ponzio from the Stimson Center, and on behalf of my colleagues, especially our president, Brian Finley, and my program colleagues, Nudhara Yusuf, Muznah Siddiqui, and Professor Joris Larik, who is kindly with us for today's award program, a special thank you for this truly incredible honor and opportunity afforded by the Geneva Center for Security Policy and its Creative Spark program, as well as the jury for this 2023 GCSP Prize for Transformative Futures in Peace and Security. Ever since I was a graduate student in Geneva at the Graduate Institute for International and Development Studies, I've long admired the work of GCSP. So this award's 2-month incubation program will allow us to look forward to a tremendous global networking opportunity in what is often called International Geneva. This will afford us a unique vantage point from which to explore and expand the reach and potential policy impact of our global governance innovation project. We hope to do so vis-a-vis a range of international organizations and government representatives based in Geneva, as well as to test and challenge our methodologies vis-a-vis scholars and policy analysts at leading academic and policy research institutions. Since I know my colleague, Professor Larik, and I will have the opportunity to field a few questions in a minute or two from Paul, related to our project, let me just briefly share one concluding thought as it relates to the origins of this project. And I should have mentioned that it's a project with two other key partners, the Institute for Economics and Peace, leading on the Global Governance Index component. They're based in Sydney, Australia, and the Charney Research polling firm based out of New York City, leading on our Global Governance Survey. So my thought is that with great power tensions at the heart of Europe, Ukraine, of course, is top of mind, but also in the Asia Pacific, and let's not forget, alongside levels of violent conflict worldwide not seen in decades, perhaps since World War II, the task of forging a new agenda for peace in the run-up to next year's Summit of the Future in New York could not be more vital. Central to this instrument is the need to upgrade the UN's conflict management toolkit. That's, of course, prevention, peacemaking, peacekeeping, and post-conflict peace building, in light of the changing nature of conflict since the original Agenda for Peace back in 1992. But at the same time, we need to be looking at the collective security architecture. There's another instrument for that our research focuses on, the Intergovernmental Pact for the Future. And here, of course, top of mind is Security Council reform, but also the General Assembly and the peace building commissions. So in the hope of having time to expand on some of these points during our discussion, and I know Professor Larik is ready to speak to a bit more on the origins of our project, we'll turn it back to Paul, but thank you once again for this amazing honor and opportunity.
Well, congratulations, of course, to our first place winners. Of course, we also want to thank members of the jury for having judged this very first Transformative Futures Prize. Well, congratulations are in order to all the competing and of course winning teams. So as we're saying, we'll now hear a little bit more from each project and team. I'll be speaking with their respective representatives. For members of the audience who will have seen the message in the chat function, of course, please submit your questions via the chat function in the Q&A. I will, of course, read these questions to the winning teams after we've completed the set of questions with the respective interviews. And without any delay, we'll return, of course, to our first place winners, so Dr. Richard Ponzio and Professor Joris Larik. Thank you, of course, for agreeing to talk about this as well. So indeed, my first question to you was to learn, how did this project originate? And what initially raised the interest by the institution you're affiliated with, the Stimson Center, and prefiguring the one that the GCSP would have?
I think, yeah, I'll speak to that. But first of all, yeah, also on my part, thanks very much to the Geneva Center and members of the jury for this award. It's indeed very humbling, and we're over the moon to receive it. Because also one of the reasons is that this project has quite a long prehistory. So the form that you see today, that Richard already outlined, how it's grown into a report series, survey, index, multi-stakeholder global policy dialogue. It's really a methodology that we've refined and developed over almost a decade. I think the starting point for us, how we came together on this, was back in 2014 and 15 with the Albright-Gambari Commission and its report on confronting the crisis of global governance. And I think from there on, we developed all of this further, expanded the network. And I think for me, really, speak for Richard and the team as well, Transformative Futures then really means more of a marathon than a sprint, so that it's something you have that moves quite slowly, but where you can detect progress. And that's really something that we really would like to keep our hand on the pulse, our fingers on the pulse all these years, tracking both the evolution of thinking on global governance and global challenges, and how that can inform then policy responses to that, how it can make things that were perhaps unthinkable before more possible, but also thinking about still the obstacles and spoilers that you'll always face in these processes. So now, really, at this particular moment, in the last maybe 24 months, you really see an acceleration, I think, towards towards change that we've been eagerly awaiting. So that's also why also the timing for this prize is couldn't have been better for us. It's both a very nice acknowledgement of all the work that's been done, but also as we find ourselves in this crucial moment, awaiting the Summit of the Future, a once-in-a-generation opportunity, as we call it in our forthcoming report in 2024, and where I think there can be really momentum for real change in the coming years. Again, boosted by also the amazing opportunity posed by this prize and the Spark program. So it's a bit of history and also a big thank you from my side.
Thank you very much. The next question I had for you were, well, of course, how would you understand and what's your conception of this transformative future, and how would you like it to apply it to your, how would you like it to apply to your project?
Thank you. I'll field that one, Paul. As policy researchers at a think tank here in Washington and with partners around the world, like Professor Larik based in The Hague, at Leiden University, we like to see results from our labors, and even in the short term. So that's why we have often a pragmatic streak that's combined with pushing what we consider to be bold ideas that may often be viewed as ahead of their time. For instance, we're going to definitely be looking at operational aspects of the new agenda for peace to be brought out by Secretary General Guterres in about 2 or 3 weeks from now. And in particular, we've been toiling with an idea since the Albright-Gomari Commission that Professor Larik referred to, of a new civilian response capability. This would speak to all 4 of the P's that I mentioned: prevention, peacemaking, peacekeeping, post-conflict peace building. But it's a 500 international staff, new, rapidly deployable cadre that would also combine 50 highly specialized mediators, and then a standby component, 2,000 across the UN system, trained to better work in fragile conflict-affected states. Believe it or not, with all the advances since the first Agenda for Peace, there's still the need for institutional memory, training, new capabilities, and we have specific ideas on that. But as I also mentioned, this is an opportunity to look at the collective security architecture, starting with Security Council, but the General Assembly. We give a lot of time to the upgrade of the Peacebuilding Commission brought about during the 60th anniversary of the UN in 2005. The original sin was that it's just an advisory body to the Security Council and the General Assembly. It really needs to take the lead on second and third order conflicts beyond the Security Council's purview, post-peacekeeping or prevention activities through, for instance, a new tool, a peace-building audit that examines early warning indicators, hopefully leading to early action. A number of other ideas, though, for these post-conflict situations that are often off the radar. Of course, I can't miss the opportunity to say better diagnostic tools will be central to this effort. And that's why we're super excited then to be working and learning from colleagues in Geneva in the coming months on the development of these 2 new instruments, the Global Governance Index and Global Governance Survey.
Thank you, Dr. Ponzio. And that brings me, of course, to my last question, which are, what you feel are the next steps for your project's implementation? How do you see it evolving? And in particular, how might the association with the GCSP Creative Spark bring some recognition to it?
Great. I'll welcome Professor Larik, my colleague Joris, to jump in as well. And just to say, in a few weeks' time, we're testing the pilot report will be shared at a meeting that was actually held in Geneva a year ago, but it'll be at the U.S. Institute of Peace this June 21st and 22nd. It's the annual meeting of the Academic Council on the UN System. We'll also have an associated global policy dialogue on the theme of reconstructing the global peace and security architecture embedded within the ACAN's annual meeting. So it's our first chance for real peer review. And as we look towards the fall and the incubation program, we're going to be most excited to build on and get the most constructive but critical critique of these tools. We know composite measurement indicators, starting with the Human Development Index, which is where I cut my teeth in the 1990s with Mahbub al-Haq, the gentleman who coined the phrase human security. We know that it has to go through several iterations and have the best ideas to get these composite measurement tools to have credibility and let alone potency. But areas such as expanding our partnership through a global governance innovation network to take the research and ideas forward, including through global policy dialogues, funding. All programs require funding, and we'll be looking for ideas and inspiration. And most of all, I think just better ways of communicating our messages. We'll definitely want to work with the GCSP communications team on better ways, maybe to develop a communicator's guide based on the research that we've undertaken through these three products, the Global Governance Innovation Report, Index, and Survey. Joris, would you like to add anything?
Just to stress again the critical timing that we find ourselves in, that really with ever since UN 75 in 2020, this momentum has been created. The Secretary General had his seminal Our Common Agenda report, then the high-level advisory board on effective multilateralism with a follow-up report. International community, despite all its differences, despite all the challenges and maybe ill will sometimes, has committed to the summer of the future. A follow-up pact of the future is then also committed to. So this particular moment, after we launch the report in Washington soon, and before the Summit of the Future starts, is really, an absolutely critical moment to get it right, because it is such a once in a generation opportunity. And what better place to get it right, to really fine tune these ideas and expand the network than indeed in Geneva.
Well, thank you very much to both of you. I'm seeing some questions are already coming for you in the chat, so we'll have an occasion to return to you a little bit later on. We're now going to head over to our third place winners. So to Mr. Adrien Saada and I believe Florian Micco might be here too as well. So of course, thank you for joining us, and to you too. I would ask, what are the origins of your project? How did you form your team there in Lausanne?
Thank you. Yes, it's a very interesting question, because it started back in 2016 actually. So it was through the World Economic Forum Global Future Council on Space. So they had this first idea of creating this rating tool to assess the sustainability level of space missions. So at the time, it was only a discussion and an idea. So it took a bit of time for them to really start working on this. And so in 2019, they thought it was a priority. So basically, they appointed, the World Economic Forum appointed 4 companies to really develop this methodology. And this is when the real work started. Not here in Lausanne, though. So the organizations are the ones I mentioned earlier. So it's BryceTech, the WEF, MIT, UT Austin, and ESA Space Debris Office. And they really worked also with industry players and also researchers, regulators, space agencies, to develop this methodology to try to capture what's important when you want to measure space sustainability. And so once they thought this was ready, so they wrote papers. They also provided a lot of communications around what's going to be in the space sustainability rating. And in 2021, they basically prepared a call for tender for organizations to take over the space sustainability rating. And this is when EPFL applied and started to develop this initiative. Before it was developed, it was transferred to this association. So I joined the team at this stage. So before 2021, it's going to be hard for me to tell you a bit more. But once I was there, basically we started working on doing some beta tests, some fine tuning of the rating methodology, define a rating process, build a business plan, develop partnership with different partners with a lot of geographical diversity, but also in the type of partners we wanted. So not only satellite operators, but also researchers, researchers, space situational awareness providers, regulators, insurers, a lot of different partners. And in 2023, after, let's say, a lot of discussions and reflections, we decided to create this nonprofit association under Swiss law. And now in 2023, we are ready to operate. So it's with great pleasure that now I can say that we are operating, and we are ready to basically maximize the impact we want to have on the space sector and push for positive change in the field of space sustainability.
Thank you. Well, that's given you an idea of your odyssey, and I'd ask you then, of course, for what's next, and how do you define what's a transformative future, and how do you apply that concept to your project?
Mm-hmm. So when we talk of transformative future, in my opinion, if we project ourselves in a, let's say, a case where transformative future has been implemented, some positive impact has been delivered in many different aspects and different sectors on crucial aspects of our society. And when you think about space and space applications, we tend to forget the importance of space and how it is crucial for space to be sustainable, because we are basically dependent to it. And we are now on, let's say, a situation where we really need to shift the behaviors. And this is what you need to do if you want to implement a transformative future, in my opinion. You need to implement solutions to shift behaviors if you want to drive positive change. And when we look at the project, the space sustainability rating, this is exactly what we want to build. We want to shift the behaviors of the companies that are applying for rating, basically trying to first measure what space sustainability. You can't really change what you can measure, right? So the rating methodology is really here to measure and benchmark operators so that we know if they are sustainable or not, regarding space sustainability, of course. And then we also want to drive this change by incentivizing the operators to have more sustainable behaviors and drive positive change. In that way, it's not only like a rating system, but it's also like providing recommendations. So this is really our view of the transformative future and how we want, through our actions, to implement this future.
Thank you. And last but not least, of course, what's the next stage for you? And how do you feel the certificate of recognition will contribute to that future part, and perhaps what participating in the competition, how that might have stimulated your reflection on the future?
So we are now operational, but there are a few things that we need to address and basically start right away to do. So first one, we really need to start to deliver positive impact right now. And for us, it means delivering ratings. We need to rate companies, rate operators, so that it can be seen as a way to measure the sustainability and also to implement those recommendations that we provide in order to, let's say, increase and implement more sustainable behaviors. Of course, this can only be achieved if you also bring value for rated companies. So in order to achieve this, what you need to showcase to operators, space agencies, regulators, and researchers is that the SSR is impactful and can also drive sustainable development in the space sector. And this is really what we are trying to do right now. And of course, secondly, the association has been created since not a long time ago. So we need to establish a long-term financial stability for the association. And to do that, we need to reach out to foundations, to public entities, and show them really that we are heading in the right direction and the project can have a significant positive impact. And so based on that, this is where GCSP Prize and basically applying to this is really important for us, because it shows us that we really are, let's say, seen as an organization that has the potential to drive positive impact and to drive a transformative future. So with this in mind, it's now our responsibility, and we thank you for this recognition. It's now our responsibility to showcase that this recognition that has been provided need to be leveraged in the communications we do when we reach to public institutions, and also to show to non-initiated audience that space sustainability is actually a priority. So in order to basically achieve those goals that I mentioned before.
Well, thank you very much, Adrien. We'll come back to you with whatever questions our audience will have for your project as well. We'll now hear about the second place winners with the pre-recorded interview I had with Dr. João Costa representing the VOI methodology. And we're now with Mr. João Costa, who's speaking for the VOI methodology. Congratulations again on your win. And if you'd like to tell me, first of all, what was the original inspiration and concept that gave a rise to this VOI methodology project?
That is a great starting question, Paul. So thank you very much for that and for obviously your kind words. So the roots of the VOI come from my keen academic interest in the idea of justice and my fascination by political philosophy. So I think it should be no surprise to those who share that same passion that John Rawls was one of my core readings. And that's where the name VOI comes from, is concept of veil of ignorance. So in a nutshell, I'll try to be as brief as possible, but Rawls imagined citizens debating behind a veil of ignorance, or a VOI, which is a sort of a blindfold that would prevent individuals from knowing their basic characteristics, such as their gender, social economic status, religion, etc. And he believed that this would be a fair way to guide coexistence, because citizens would be or would decide on what would be best for all without knowing how would their choices impact their actual position. So his work had been criticized a lot for failing to offer empirical validation. And that's why I went to Cambridge to do criminological research, because I wanted to test it out empirically. So I designed and piloted VOI exercises, or should I say a much incipient version of them compared to what they are now. But I did that in a prison setting in the UK, where opposing groups would search for common ground. And the dynamics were great. So you could imagine different gangs and factions within the prison, having individuals in the room talking about flourishing social justice in a very productive way. Of course, at that time, no social economic intervention followed, as happens in the current full version of the VOI that I've since developed. But it is, or it was, a great stepping stone. And then after this, I transitioned outside academia into the humanitarian development and peace nexus. And I worked in multiple fragile countries with different organizations over the years. And in field contexts such as Colombia, Ethiopia, Côte d'Ivoire, and others, I witnessed a lot of discrepancies between policy documents from HQ, headquarters, and the realities on the ground. So community members seldom had a consequential impact on decision-making processes, and even when activities were justified with the intention of benefiting them, this was still missing in a way. And then I thought that rigorous theoretical foundations of projects and evaluations were the exception, which then curbed, of course, the opportunity to better understand impact and therefore improve the effectiveness of programs and activities. And to be honest, I thought it should be possible to do things a little bit better at times. And thus I decided to return to Cambridge, but this time for a PhD, in order to explore and understand whether I could develop a systematic procedure that could consistently enable communities to become pockets of peace, which is what the VOI ended up being. So in fact, and just to finish, while the peace-building literature, I think, often criticizes the lack of theoretical rigor of practice, then scholars are also accused of offering little in return that is constructive and concrete and actionable. So I wanted to address both of these issues at once, even knowing that it was rather ambitious, but I had a solid starting point, which was Rawls. So why not adapting him or his theoretical framework to peace building? So I started reading a lot on emotion regulation strategies, social identity, intergroup conflicts, how to influence and change behavior, obviously pre-existing peace-building literature and practice, to complement the VOI model that I already had. And the outcome was this procedure that offers practitioners a theoretically informed method that is actionable, promotes the change it defends, and is able to prove it through measurement tools that are context-specific, but also externally intelligible, whilst being scientific. Anyway, one thing, I guess, led to the other, and so here we are today.
Well, thank you very much indeed for giving us this idea of the itinerary towards the VOI and as it will progress. My next question would obviously be about, what sort of transformations are those that you would like to see achieved in priority as you put this project in motion?
Sure. Okay. In terms of priority, I think this, this answer builds on the previous one in a lot of ways. Because with the VOI project, what I want to do is ensure that peace-building practice becomes more effective in minimizing impact of violence, promoting social cohesion, while embedding non-rhetorical meaning in notions of local ownership. So I guess in other words, promoting peaceful coexistence, increasing cooperation between opposing groups, while decisively shifting the power balance in favor of communities, making sure that progress and impact are adequately understood. So after having validated the methodology on the ground, I now have a solid and, very successful proof of concept of the VOI, which show that it is a fast, cost-effective procedure with exponential impact in the communities where it has been implemented. So basically, to increase and expand this impact or the positive change it brings about, I aim to scale the VOI, which means seeing it grow and become a widely used solution to promote peace at the local level in different contexts. And I would like the procedure to be appropriated in a way by institutions and used as one amongst other tools that can complement one another. And I'd like to emphasize, I think, this idea of complementarity, with the ultimate goal, of course, of benefiting affected populations.
Thanks. And I think that leads us quite logically to my final question, which would be, how would you like to see public interest in the notion of transformative futures to be stimulated by the VOI amongst the other projects and how it's being recognized by the GCSP in this prize award competition?
Sure. So I think I'll divide my answer into two parts, precisely because I think, first, that it is the competition as a whole promoted by the GCSP and not mine or any other projects, for what it's worth, that create that public spark, paraphrasing, your terms, when thinking about new approaches for sustaining global peace and security. If I'm not mistaken, you've received close to 200 applications, which in and of itself, it is quite impressive. And then with this event and the publicity and the interest that it creates, you're already engaging the public and reminding and encouraging people to persist in this sort of collective quest for better societies, while at the same time reminding the public that it is hard to transform innovative ideas into reality, especially in our line of work. But I think it is important, as this prize does, to focus on possibilities, on forward-looking solutions, rather than just underpinning or emphasizing the challenges that people will necessarily encounter along the way. So this is my first part, and then focusing now on the VOI, so my project specifically. What I would like, or what I would hope that this recognition does, is increase public interest in the methodology as it is, and thus create some sort of momentum for future projects and more institutional partnerships. I think this is an opportunity to get the VOI out there and remind donors, and obviously implementing partners as well, that it is possible to achieve a better balance between peace and violence, and that the international community can work in ways that are effective in sustaining peace, even without a large budget, which is the argument that the VOI case studies make. And the VOI did start as a rather bold endeavor. You can imagine I was a researcher who needed funding, a team, someone who believed in an idea that was different from other practices in order to test it, to go to the ground and test it. And I knew that this was somewhat far-fetched. So I was lucky, and I guess very persistent as well, to find people and that just helped me and believed in the idea, which was key. And this is the link with this competition as well, because the competition itself paves the way for more institutionalization of ideas, which again is fundamental. You cannot do things alone. And so I think that is rather important when you're trying to contribute to global peace and security. I guess that's it. I look forward to meeting all of the other people who are participating here in this prize, or just looking into it and discussing these ideas in the future. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about.
Thank you, João.
Thank you.
So we'll now return to the questions we received. Actually, quite a few coming through the chat here, and I see at least 3 that are addressed to our first place winners, and 1 to our third place. So hopefully we'll manage to get everything in. So of course, for the Global Governance Innovation Project, the first question I received was whether you could already identify some institutional, legal, policy, normative, or operational reforms needed for improved global governance.
Great, and I know Professor Larik is ready to jump in on the second one there by our colleague Ines Gasal-Bosch. Yeah, it's our stock and trade to come up with innovative proposals, especially in these categories that are detailed in the question you shared. On the operational side, as I said, and with an eye to the Secretary General's new agenda for peace, it's really important that we refine and update the 4 pivotal concepts from the 1992 Agenda for Peace in light of the changing nature, conflict, climate change, water, new technology come to mind. And we have very specific ideas on new platform and systems for early warning. Of course, it's what the Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs of the UN is actively engaged in, but we always feel we can go further, working in partnership, by the way, with think tanks and researchers at leading universities. But they also, the UN system has an amazing field presence, which I know one of the other questions speaks to. It's so important that we connect the dots with the peace and development advisors, which has really taken off in recent years, even as peacekeeping missions have declined. But these civilians out in fragile conflict-affected states can play a central role in what we advocate as responsibility to prevent, getting beyond the responsibility just to protect, but to prevent violent conflict, to have new action plans, to have at the heart of that data collection and then early action coming from the analysis and recommendations, really at the country and even local level. That's what the Women Peace and Youth Peace and Security agenda. But I won't have time to go into it, but it's so important that we connect the institutional architecture, the intergovernmental bodies, starting with the Security Council, where separate from our own research with the Albright-Gambari Commission, where we get into, I think, some pragmatic small changes that will allow the bigger countries to come back on as elected members, not just having to wait 2 years on and then many years off, but to come on regularly. That's what we've been advocating for about a decade, and we'll continue to do because we think that's such an easy step in the right direction. But some recent research I undertook with the former Swiss Deputy MFA and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Michael Ambuel, and his colleague Nora Meyer at ETH Zurich. We have, I think, more ambitious and timely proposals on definitely expanding the number of permanent members based on better regional representation, but this issue of the veto and having at least 2, in some cases, depending on the number of permanent members, 3 permanent members need to disagree with a decision of the Security Council for there to be the equivalent of a veto, a vote of non-concurrence. And it's just long overdue that we move beyond the paralysis we've seen, not only in, of course, Ukraine lately, but Syria over the last decade, and most recently in alarming North Korea, where there had been consensus since around 2015, 2005 or 6, vis-a-vis North Korea among the great powers. That needs to change.
Thank you very much. So I understand Professor Larik was interested in the question on the project's tracking contribution of countries to improving the management of global public goods. So could you describe some noteworthy contributions to improving global governance?
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to speak to that. Firstly, because global public goods is really a concept that had a bit of a revival also in the Our Common Agenda report. So we happily picked that up as well, and then was worked out by our amazing colleagues from the Institute for Economics and Peace and Charney Research to really build some very interesting indicators for that. So So conceptually, that was I think the right way to go. I can't say too much to the exact results yet because we are putting the final touches on the report, and I invite everyone to have a close look then once it's out. Also, as a law and policy person, I'm not sure I can do full justice to the methodology of these seasoned economists and pollsters. Just to say that it's very interesting to work with them and maybe give you one or two previews of a sneak peek into what's to come. What's very interesting, I think, makes a lot of sense, was to combine in these indicators some of the things, the selection of countries, G20, G7, BRICS, what they do internationally, but also what do they do at home to provide global public goods? What do they do to contribute to peace, to a healthy environment, to socioeconomic stability? And that all amalgamated, maybe one thing I can share is, well, your big partner to the neighbor to the north, Germany, is actually doing quite well across several of these indicators, quite consistently. Whereas we see other countries oscillate quite a bit. So I think China, in some ways, it's doing very well. In other areas, it's rather at quite low on the ranking. It also serves to highlight, maybe to close on that in this sneak peek. It also highlights again some contributions that we sometimes easily forget. So for instance, that countries like India make a huge contribution to international peace and security through peacekeeping, and really put a lot of resources and people literally on the front line for that. So that's a way also to bring out these contributions and put them in relation to what other countries with much more resources, more military spending into perspective.
Thank you very much, Professor Larik. Actually, I do see a few more questions that are addressed to your team. Unfortunately, we're a little bit pressed for time here, and the point being, of course, since you'll be coming to the Creative Spark, you'll probably have the chance to further discuss these questions as well. So I wanted to, before we finished, have the question that's been put to Adrien Saada by Lisa Rogenmoser. And along with her congratulations, as we all know, the business environment is rather profit-oriented. So based on your experience, what are clients and companies' incentives to participate in the space sustainability rating? And how do you promote participation in that rating?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question, and actually it's one of the core preoccupation we have. So first of all, I think there's more and more public interest regarding sustainability in space activities. So when you look at, for instance, constellations and everything that you can hear about constellation not being sustainable or doing its best to be sustainable. So there's definitely a part of public interest and pressure from, let's say, a larger audience that comes in when someone considers going for a rating or not. The second thing is peer pressure. So most of the companies, they want to be seen as good players. Some companies do not really know how to be good players, and so they want to be advised on how can they do better, basically. And some are already good players, but they need to basically showcase their effort. And so in order to do that, they can not only tell that they are good players, they need, let's say, an independent entity, and this is when a rating comes in. So that's one of the, let's say, first incentive that we have. It's a soft one. Second one that might be interesting for the future is also the regulatory changes. So there's a rule in space that you need to deorbit your satellite within 25 years after the end of life. And suddenly the FCC, so in the US, they started to change this rule to 5 years. So in a way, let's say the more sustainable you are, the most ready you are to answer to regulatory changes such as this one. Side note, we also have regulatory changes coming in Europe, probably sooner or later. ESA has announced a zero debris policy for the emissions, which is also a good thing. So second side of the answer is regulatory changes. And finally, in space, there's something, safety and sustainability are somehow related. If you are sustainable, it means that you are doing collision avoidance. You are basically deorbiting your satellite. So in a way, this could result also for a mission that wants to be, let's say, more safe and more sustainable, to actually have less risk to lose the mission. And so this is a direct economic incentive because they don't want to risk this mission in the process and having let's say, a fatal event, a collision. Now, this is for now. And of course, we are thinking about more attracting a financial incentive for operators participating in. So first one, of course, would be insurances. So as I mentioned, safety and sustainability are somehow related in space. And so we really want to link this initiative with the insurance sector. And we tried it in the past. It was not successful. So maybe what we need to do is to be a bit more established, do more ratings, and then try again in a few years. And finally, the last incentive that we'd like to develop is also the participation of the public sector. So for instance, the SSR can be a tool for regulators to actually check whether an operators comply with some of the, let's say, licensing processes. Or also maybe we can exit this part of incentivizing the company. Maybe the persons that we want to incentivize are not longer the company sending stuff to space, but more the agencies or the regulators, so that we incentivize them to advise or impose on some operators to take a ratings because they want, of course, to operate missions that are more sustainable, to limit liabilities, but also to send a positive image and drive the change. So there are, let's say, areas of improvement that we can target regarding the incentive side of participating in the rating. We identified them, and our goal is to implement them in the future.
Thank you very much. Well, that will be all we have time for, and we'll have to bring our 2023 Transformative Futures Prize Award ceremony to a conclusion. Congratulations again to the winners, of course, the first place winners who will be welcoming to the Creative Spark here in Geneva. So, of course, my very warm thanks to everyone who's joined us online today for the event. Of course, to Ambassador Thomas Greminger, Professor Nayef Al-Rodhan, Ms. Anne-Caroline Pissis-Martel. I want to thank, of course, my fellow GCSP staff who've made the online event possible, in particular, Ms. Christine Garnier-Simon, Mr. Samuel Berchi, and Ms. Mavis Pavloto. And of course, thank you to everyone who's been involved in this year's Transformative Futures Prize, the first one, as you recall, whether you've been competitors or organizers and jury members. So we'll all look forward to seeing you again soon, and wish you a very nice rest of the day. So goodbye from us all here at the GCSP in Geneva. Thank you.